Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Beautiful day here. It started off lousy, but by 2 o'clock, clouds just disappeared, and now the sun's out bright and everything. And so it's really nice out right now. Anyway, it went down to BAM Bookstore, and I got this Batmobile here from Batman, obviously. It's got Batman inside it, and it lights up. There it goes. Lights up here in the back. Was on sale. I got it at a discount. I only paid just under 40 bucks for it. I know you're saying, oh, why the hell did you spend that? Yeah, I know, but it was originally over 60, so when I saw it for 60, I said I'll pass, and that was like 2 years ago. So that's not a new toy, but it's one I didn't have, and I just bided my time. And finally it showed up and with a new price on it, and I'm like, okay, I'll take it, you know. And so yeah, just people outside and everything. So yeah, got that. And what else did I get there? It was just oh yeah, got this Kilowog figure here from Green Lantern here. It's pretty big too. He's like 10 inches tall. Come with this hammer, and he's got, obviously he's got the Green Lantern to charge up his ring. So I got that, and so yeah, went and did a little bit of shopping. Haven't bought anything in a while, but so anyway, back to the stone here. Got 2 videos, and the first one I have is from the iHip ladies here, and they're going to be talking about how Elon's time in Doge is coming to an end, and how China is really pissing off Trump now. And so let's go to that video here, and then we'll discuss that on the other side.
Gave him another $100 million. Make no mistake, Elon Musk wants to be involved in everything because he bought and paid for the presidency of the United States, and it was sold to him by a man with no ethics, no principles, and no conviction or care about what's happening to the United States. It is not a surprise that Elon wants to put his hand in everything. And we know that Doge, his appointment to Doge, it was a 130-day appointment. That runs out in May. So here's where we are. We're going to find out after his term with Doge expires. Is Trump going to start leaking about Elon? Are the people on Trump's team going to leak more and more of the hideous behavior of Elon? And Elon, is he going to start leaking on Trump? Because as we've said from the jump, I just cannot help but think with these 2 malignant narcissists, there is not mutually assured destruction, and neither of them will be able to control themselves once Elon's term has expired. That's my hope anyway, because I want these two to go down. Speaking of going down, we have new polling out regarding how the people of the United States feel about their wannabe dictator president, Donald Trump.
Trump's net approval rating. Look at this. It's a huge slide in it. In early February, it was plus 6 points. Then you go to late February, plus 2 points. Then you go to March, it's even. And look at this massive jump from late March to now, minus 6 points. That's a 6-point drop in less than a month. And why is that occurring? It is because of the tariff war. The voters are punishing Donald Trump in one of his best polls, which now even that best poll is a negative poll for Donald Trump.
I've also seen polls that came out over the weekend that his approval rating on the economy is 44% approve, which I have to ask myself, who are the 44%? Are they unconscious? Are they the 1%? Who is approving of this man in any capacity? And so what we heard there was a reference to the tariffs. And we have heard Liberation Day, April 2nd, which turned out to be a total disaster, that he screeched back almost immediately because the economy was in a complete free fall. The stock market tanked. So then he pauses, but he doesn't pause against China because he has a real problem with China. And so now we're going back and forth with China. Here's where we stand as of right now on the tariffs that Trump has imposed. So Trump says he's going to exempt phones, computers, and chips from new tariffs. And I ask myself, who would be primarily rewarded if that exemption existed? And then I think, well, iPhone, Apple would be. And then I think, oh yeah, Tim Cook, he was on the stage at President Trump's inauguration. So I wonder if he made a phone call about these tariffs. That's where my thinking was headed. But oh no, Donald Trump, God forbid there be any routine or stability when it comes to him being president. He is the master of destruction. On Sunday, he announced there will be no tariff exemption announced on Friday, declaring those days are over. So here's the thing. We know that economies globally look to the United States for stability. And what we have now is every other country is looking at the United States. And as Kamala Harris said, and I quote, Donald Trump is a laughingstock. Unfortunately, now the American economy is a laughingstock. And the losers in this tariff war will be the American people. And in my opinion, disproportionately MAGA voters who are often white collar, blue collar, low income, because they don't have what Donald Trump needs anymore. He's transactional. They can't vote for him again. All they can do is buy his grifty riffraff shit. So he is only out to help the oligarchy. So we'll see what happens with the tariffs today or tomorrow or the next day. My guess is President Xi is not going to fuck around with Donald, because we know that Trump reached out and wanted to make a phone call to talk negotiations with Xi last week regarding the tariffs. So what we learn now is report. China never responded to Trump's request for a phone call with Xi. Do you know why? Because she knows he's a dipshit. She knows that they hold more cards than the United States, because she is running around talking about a zero tariff policy with European nations. He's talking with South Korea and Japan about trading with them. The other leaders of the world are working together to keep the United States at bay. They're working to form an alliance that excludes the United States of America. And that is a sad day, because the United States has always been a leader on democracy and economics. And what we have now is Donald Trump is trying to destroy democracy at home, and global economy is tanking because of his policies. And make no mistake, the American people are the ones that are going to suffer. And then we have another move by China that came out. Breaking, China has offloaded $50 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds and limited further purchase of dollars. And it appears they're buying European bonds. So what that tells me is China looks at Donald Trump and all his tariffs and all his bluster and all his bullshit going back and forth. And he's saying, fuck you. You're a dipshit. I can outmaneuver you because I am smart and I can see the future. I can play the tape through. I have impulse control. Donald Trump has none of these things because all he wants to do is pull his dick out and say, oh, I have the biggest dick. I'm going to do all this. Tariff you, come negotiate with me. And then he has his cabinet kissing his ass and telling him, oh, every country wants to negotiate with you. Well, it certainly doesn't appear that way, as the U.S. economy depends on the bond market. And now it's being undercut. We heard it was being undercut by Japan last week. Now we know it's being an interesting thing. All you hear from MAGA is made in America, America first. We're the best, blah, blah, blah. Everything America, America, America. Well, I thought this video was I just got so tickled when I saw it.
The Trump store inside the Trump Hotel, and my question is, how many things inside of here are made in America? Ooh, look at that bomber jacket. China. This mug says designed in Oregon, but made in China. What about the classic Stanley Cup? Made in China. Now this bottom shelf, I don't know what to think about it. This mug says designed in Oregon, but I don't see where it's made. So on this one, I took the price tag sticker off the bottle, and there it is, made in China. There's no way the sticker is strategically placed over the made in China part, right? Let's take a look at all of them. Made in China covered, another made in China covered. This white one, made in China covered. Not everything was either China or USA. This Las Vegas hat was made in Bangladesh, and this woman's golf hat was made in Vietnam.
And there you have it, folks. The grifter has his products with his America First, Make America Great Again, all made in China, which we all knew. We all knew that. But this man is such a lying, deceptive grifter. And unfortunately, the people that buy that crap, they don't know. Either they don't care, they do not understand how ridiculous and hypocritical Trump and his entire administration is. And then one thing I thought that was really striking over the weekend is we interviewed Gavin Newsom during the election before he had Charlie Kirk on his podcast. And he was talking about how when California needed federal funding for natural disasters, that Trump didn't want to give it to them because California historically votes blue and specifically did not vote for Trump. And his aides had to beg him, and Gavin Newsom had to make a phone call to beg him to release the funds. And we're hearing about that. You know, it's whispered about all the time. Well, something that came out this weekend is the Trump administration, Donald Trump has denied North Carolina's request for an extension of FEMA relief for damage from Hurricane Helene because hurricanes blow, but Trump sucks. I thought that was a cute little play on words, but something that we have to remember is North Carolina voted for Trump 3 times. He does not want to extend natural disaster relief. Now, mind you, during the campaign, he was saying how Biden was withholding relief and Biden wasn't going to provide any FEMA relief for North Carolina. And as always, projection is reality when it comes to Donald Trump. Now, he is denying these people who voted for him for president 3 times. And the question that I have, is it because he's not running for president again, therefore he doesn't give a shit? Or does he just not give a shit about the people of North Carolina and the United States abroad, which that's a rhetorical question, obviously. Stick with us. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers. We'll see you soon.
Well, so, you know, all this talk that Trump was going to be able to deal with Putin and Xi, Kamala tried to tell us that Trump would be incapable of handling either one of them, okay? And so far he hasn't done a very stellar job with each. But the idea that China was selling off $50 billion in U.S. bonds gives him a lot of concern. And for those of you out there who need clarification on things, okay, bonds and what that means, okay, because I know, look, if you guys didn't know what a tariff is, I doubt many of you would even know what a bond is. And it just so happened that I found a article here from The Guardian that was published 2 days ago, and this kind of explains and very well what this is, okay. So the title of it is "What Are Bonds and Why Have They Spooked Donald Trump?" written by Philip Inman. Donald Trump's tariff war has spooked stock markets and heightened fears of a recession in the U.S. and Europe. But neither factor appears to have been what motivated the president's sudden volte-face this week when he paused most of his Liberation Day border taxes for 90 days. The fact Trump could not ignore was a mass sell-off by investors of U.S. government bonds. But what exactly are bonds? How are they traded, and why are they so central to the current crisis? Question number 1, what is a bond? A bond is a certificate confirming that its owner has lent money to a specified borrower that will be repaid at a fixed date, typically with a fixed rate of interest. Known as fixed income securities, they appeal to investors who want stable returns. Corporations issue bonds to borrow money, and so do governments to pay for investments and other expenditures. The UK government's bonds are called gilts, G-I-L-T-S, while U.S. government bonds are known as treasuries, traditionally seen as a safe haven because they are guaranteed by the world's biggest economy. They are issued with different maturity dates when they must be paid off in full, with 2-year, 10-year, and 30-year bonds being common. Question number 2, how are they traded? Bonds can be bought and sold like shares on a secondary market, an exchange, but unlike shares, they offer guaranteed annual returns. The bond market is the world's biggest securities exchange, worth almost 130 trillion with a T dollars, with the U.S. market accounting for about 40% of debt worldwide. Government bonds are usually sold to financial institutions in auctions and can then be resold on the secondary market for more or less than their face value. Question number 3, what is a bond yield? Bond yields represent the amount of money an investor receives for owning the debt as a percentage of its current price. When the price of a bond falls, yields rise. The yield is commonly referred to as an interest rate, or the cost of borrowing to an issuer. Rising yields suggest dwindling appetite to own the debt among investors, which can be influenced by a range of factors, including an issuer's ability to repay. For governments, this centers on the prospects for the country's economy and finances. Inflation expectations also have a significant impact. This is because inflation undercuts the future value of money received for owning the debt. This means investors could demand a higher yield to compensate for that risk. And because other financial products such as mortgages are priced off the yield, there is a spillover into the broader economy. So, what have Trump's tariffs done to bonds? At first, the U.S. president considered his tariff plan to be working, having anticipated stock markets would react badly to tariffs and the dollar would fall. Trump was sure the bond market would remain calm because he promised to pay for tax cuts later in the year with revenues from tariffs, meaning the U.S. government could limit the number of bonds it issues, keeping supply and demand in sync and putting a cap on overall government debt levels. However, the tariff war has prompted fears of a U.S. recession, making it riskier to lend to the U.S. There are concerns that the U.S. will become locked in a titanic struggle with China, which would damage both economies over a long period and drag down global growth. In response, investors have sold U.S. bonds in huge quantities, driving down their value and sending the yield higher, making future government debt more expensive to issue. So where did this leave Trump? There was a fear in the White House that paying a higher interest rate on national debt would increase the government's annual spending deficit, adding pressure to an already stretched budget and increasing the overall debt mountain. Worse than the $29 trillion market in U.S. Treasuries is the bedrock of the global financial system, and heavy selling could put pressure on other parts of it, forcing banks or other institutions to default and causing a wider financial crisis. After the president said he would suspend punitive tariffs on all countries other than China for 90 days, bond markets began to settle. However, yields still remain high, with the effective interest rate on a 10-year Treasury bond at 4.52% on Friday, compared with 3.99% on April 4th. So that went up quite a bit. The UK's 49-day Prime Minister was brought down by her own skirmish with the bond markets, which considered her mini budget to be reckless. That verdict sent the yield on UK gilts, okay, they're named for a bond, rocketing as bond values dropped like a stone, which forced mortgage companies to increase borrowing rates and wrecked Truss's premiership. While Trump has more resources, he faces similar concerns about the spillover effects. If his policies do drive up inflation as expected, with some analysts forecasting a rate of 4.5% by next year, that could alienate the Republican core vote that brought him in on promises to cut soaring food prices. Voters could see tariffs as a tax on mortgages if banks start to charge more for home loans on the back of higher yields, denting his popularity with his base. You can bet that's true. So, yeah, so that's it. That's the whole thing. So I hope that helps some people understand what a bond is, okay? So, you know, it's sort of the same kind of shit that was going on with the housing market, if you think about it in comparison. I mean, maybe it's not the same, you know, kind of thing, but I mean, that was what banks were doing, right? They were buying and selling mortgages, you know, to each other, selling debt, basically. And remember how they were saying, don't demand the bank produce the mortgage on your house before they can foreclose, because otherwise they probably don't have it because they sold it to another company or another bank, and they'd have to find it to produce it to prove that they own it. Okay, remember that? Well, that's because during all the time that the banks were doing this, they were buying debt from each other, I guess, okay? And it was being traded on the stock market. And so when the market on the housing fell, all those debts that they bought were losing value, okay, because they were going to be unpaid, right? So it kind of sounds like that, okay, with the bonds. I mean, if you can understand what went on during the housing crash in 07 and 08, then you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on here, all right? Except in this case, we're dealing with countries. Everybody's, you know, got their own bonds and stuff like that, okay? But you get sort of an idea what's happening here. When China sold off all those bonds, $50 billion worth, I mean, that scared the shit out of Trump, and that's why he added the pause. Okay, he didn't tell anybody that. In fact, the Republican Party's been trying to spin it as, oh, you know, we're winning this thing and all that, you know, and they were totally lying. They were pulling this shit out of fucking, you know, I don't know what they were doing, because they're depending on people not to know what the hell is going on in the economy, okay? If there's anything that large swaths of voters in this country don't understand, it's how the economy works, okay? From the stock market all the way to the fucking way people buy and sell shit, okay? People don't understand it. So Republicans take advantage of that ignorance by spinning shit like that and making people feel like, oh, okay, so it's all good. I thought it was bad. No, it's good. It's doing good. Trump's happy. Everything. Yeah, bullshit. He's sweating bullets in the fucking White House. People are running to him, telling him to cut this fucking crap out. Okay, he's upsetting the order of things in this country, and he needs to stop it. Okay, he's got people in his own fucking administration who are too afraid to speak out, but they're basically telling people on the outside, hey, we're not too comfortable with this. Even people on Fox News are acting nervous, and so obviously there's a lot of fucking nervousness going around throughout the whole fucking economy system here in America. And economists are predicting disaster here if Trump doesn't stop it, okay? I mean, and that's just that. And then, of course, on the other side, he's out there defunding government offices and departments here, just to get rid of them so he can take that money and give it to the fucking rich in the form of tax cuts. All right? I mean, so, he's basically turning the country into shit in a very quick way, and it's upsetting the whole fucking balance of how how the system's been trying to recover, since COVID, and was starting to chug along, like a train, and then, Trump kicks a goddamn rail out, and now the fucking train's coming to the broken rail, so that's what's happening here. I mean, we try to get ahead of something, and the Republicans get into office, and what do? They fuck it up. Every time. That's the same old nothing ever changes when it comes to the Republican Party. That's all they're good for, is just fucking things up. I don't know why people still vote for them after all these decades of the same old shit that's being said. And really, honestly, you'd think they'd catch on, but they're not as wise as they like to think they are. So, let's go to a commercial break, and then we'll come back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Hello, Daniel Caldwell. This is the VA Crisis Response Hotline. We're calling to inform you that your emergency request for in-person counseling for PTSD has been denied. To stop fraud, waste, and abuse, these services will be replaced by VetCare AI, powered by Grok, an X company. President Trump and Doge Chairman Musk, thank you for your service and being part of our efforts to eliminate waste. Have a nice day. Press 1 to repeat this message. Press 2 to return to main menu. Press 3 to leave a message, and an AI operator will call you back if your problem is deemed unwasteful. Goodbye.
Feeling my husband with 8 inches was like reliving our first time. Thanks to the salt trick, he makes me gush like a broken pipe. And just last month, I was ready to divorce my husband. But then he showed me his new 8-inch magic wand. Now, I can barely hold it in my hand. This salt trick is hands down the biggest advantage any man can have heading into 2025. I wasn't kidding when I said you should take it easy with this trick. It can turn a sad little twig into a raging anaconda. It's ridiculously simple. And it's heartbreaking to see so many men missing out on the chance to finally make their women happy. So far, this easy homemade trick has helped over 29,000 men naturally increase both size and thickness. This is the same secret top-paid adult film actors use to keep their bats way above average. It's also how they manage to handle 3, 4, or even 5 women in a row without losing their stamina. The best part? It works for men of all ages, takes just 30 seconds before bed, and can give you some incredible results in no time. If you want to skip the details and go straight to the video, just click the Watch Now button below to learn how to pull off this simple but powerful trick tonight. You should probably watch it alone, if you know what I mean. Don't waste any more time. Watch it before it gets taken down or you can't find this video anymore. Your wife or girlfriend will thank you for the rest of her life.
Identity theft, cyber fraud, financial scams. Who has access to your personal information should be your decision, not up to Elon Musk. That's your data, your social security account, your tax return, your student loans, your VA health records.
But Elon has cracked the code. He is now inside the agencies. He's created these algorithms that are constantly crawling through the data. And
how creepy is that?
Constantly crawling, crawling through the data.
The Wall Street Journal reports that Elon Musk has a long history of drug abuse.
Did people get upset at you if you do certain things?
LSD, cocaine, ecstasy, mushrooms, and ketamine. Is this somebody you trust? This guy? Elon Musk is dangerous to you, your family, your country, your data, your life. Just say no to Elon Musk.
The markets again opened with major losses.
I'm very concerned.
A lot of anxiety among Americans worried about their retirement.
I'm very concerned.
A majority of CEOs expect a recession.
I'm very concerned.
A concerned senator takes action. Susan Collins and Congress have the power to control Donald Trump's tariffs. Senator Collins, stop just being concerned and show some courage. Call Senator Collins today to demand a vote. 202-224-2523. Paid for by No Surrender Fund.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Yesterday they had a hell of a fucking town hall there in Westbrook, Maine. Apparently it was quite a shouting match going on in there. Shelley Pingree was there, and she's supposed to have another one either tomorrow or the next day, I guess. I don't know, I can't remember now, but yeah, so what you're seeing happening in other parts of the country, it's also happening here too. You know, these town hall meetings are becoming really outrageous, and it's making a lot of people uncomfortable. But hey, there's people out there that have already lost already in just the time that Trump's been back in the White House, and they want answers. They want fucking answers. But here's something I'd like to ask MAGA to think about. Marjorie Taylor Greene, before she got into Congress, her net worth was $700,000. Okay, $700,000. You know what it's worth now? $22 million. $22 million. How do you think she got all that? Just, you know, I'm going to let you guys do that, figure that one out, okay? I'm going to let you guys figure that out. How all of a sudden, you know, now she's worth $22 million. I wouldn't give her 2 cents for the fucking money that, for the work that she does, okay? She's just a clown. But I just want you to think about that. All right, so the second video I have is from Ben Meiselas, and he wants to talk about how the opposition in this country is growing exponentially against Donald Trump. And he's taking a rally that happened in Utah that had had AOC and Bernie Sanders at, they had so many people there. It was almost like, you know, having the campaign all over again for the presidency. So let's go look at that video here, and then we'll talk about that on the other side.
One of the cities that is quickly becoming a center for resistance against the authoritarian Trump and Musk regime is Salt Lake City, Utah. That's right, Salt Lake City, a city in a ruby red state, or what's purporting to be a ruby red state, that is pissed at the oligarchy engaging in a hostile takeover of the federal government, destroying essential services, destroying jobs, attacking Medicaid, wrecking people's lives, destroying people's life savings, and Salt Lake City, Utah is showing up. You know, we previously reported how in early April, during the hands-off protests, those Salt Lake City protests were incredible. One of the sites that had the largest number of people was actually in Salt Lake City, and over this past weekend, over 20,000 people in Salt Lake City showed up in the arena in Salt Lake City to watch Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman AOC as part of their Fight the Oligarchy tour. The crowd was chanting, "Tax the rich, tax the rich," and they all gave Sanders and AOC a standing ovation as Sanders and AOC ripped to shreds the Trump and Musk oligarchy. Just when you think about it, the amount of people who were in the crowd to watch Sanders and AOC, it's about 10% of the entire population in Salt Lake City. Let me just show you this crowd size right here. 20,000 people. This is what it looks like. Play this clip. And again, just from another angle, look at the packed crowd for AOC and Bernie Sanders. Let's play it. Now here's the crowd chanting "Tax the rich." Let me show this clip for you. Play this clip. Now, as I mentioned, the hands-off protest in Salt Lake City was one of the largest protests that we saw in cities throughout the country. Take a look at what went down in Salt Lake City, Utah in early April. Play this clip. Right now, going back to the event this past weekend, this is from Senator Bernie Sanders' speech at this packed arena where he goes, "So we're apparently in a conservative state like Utah. Tomorrow we're going to Idaho, but I'll tell you what, no matter what state you're from, we got to fight back against the oligarchs." Play this clip.
I mentioned a moment ago that we were in LA yesterday and we had 36,000 people out. But in many ways, the 20,000 we have out today is more impressive. And we're here in so-called conservative Utah, and tomorrow we're going to be in Idaho. Because we believe that in every state of this country, people are prepared to stand up and fight back.
Then Congresswoman AOC gave her speech where she called out the MAGA Republican senators Curtis and Lee, and she called out the MAGA Republican House members Moore and Malloy. Watch this, play this clip.
At what Republicans have been quietly doing in Congress, voting to advance cuts on hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid and veterans benefits so that they can take that money and give it to the billionaires in the form of tax cuts and sweetheart deals to billionaires like in companies like SpaceX. And you know who from Utah voted for that, by the way? Both of your senators, Mike Lee and John Curtis. And Salt Lake City's own House members, Blake Moore and Celeste Malloy. And they know, Utah, that that's not what you want. They know that it is deeply unpopular. They know that it hurts working families from Utah. But they know that they are not there to serve the working class. They are there to serve themselves and the billionaires who paid them.
By the way, just take a look at the size of the overflow crowd. So outside of the arena, which was filled with 20,000 people, there were more than 5,000 people in the overflow area. Take a look at Senator Sanders addressing the people in the overflow area. Play this clip.
And I say this a bit with regret when I speak to young people, because I wish it were different. But we are living now in perhaps the most dangerous moment in the modern history of this country. We have a president who does not understand or respect the Constitution of the United States, and every single day is moving us toward an authoritarian society where more and more power rests in his hands as he functions in an illegal and unconstitutional way.
Now, I want to share with you a story of a disabled veteran from Utah who lost his job with the Salt Lake City VA as part of Trump and Musk's gutting of the federal government, their hostile takeover. This is how disabled veterans have been treated in Salt Lake City and across the country. But this is why we need to fight back against the oligarchy. It's stories just like this from Fox 13 News in Utah. Play this clip. Now, it's stories like that.
Some federal workers may tell you a job with the government takes on a higher meaning.
We joined it because we want to serve our nation's veterans, to serve our schools, our park goers, everywhere that the federal government touches.
For Navy veteran Greg House, he wanted to continue helping others who have spent time in the military.
I get almost all of my care at the VA hospital. That is a huge part of my identity, and I want to serve them.
So he jumped at the chance to join the Veterans Affairs team in Salt Lake City last year, and all indicators told him he was thriving in the role.
Because I had only received top marks on my most recent performance evaluation.
But on February 13th, House discovered that the VA cut 1,000 probationary employees. The next day, he saw an email.
My employment with the VA had been terminated due to my performance, which didn't make much sense to me.
House says it feels like a betrayal because from his time served in the Navy to his years here at the VA, his entire adult life has been dedicated to this country.
And it hurts to see that, my story is not unique and that all of these thousands and thousands of probationary employees are having something that they've worked so hard for be just taken away.
This 80% disabled veteran now joins many others around the country who are left searching for their next step and who are left hoping that others don't have to meet this same fate.
That are scaring these MAGA Republican senators. But y'all are complicit. Y'all did this. Embrace it. This is who you are, you pathetic fools who have enabled Donald Trump and Elon Musk to destroy people's lives, to gut people's Medicaid, to go after Social Security and shut down Social Security Administration offices, to fire people who work in the health department, to destroy science, to go after our environment and destroy people's livelihoods. So here's MAGA Republican senator from Utah, Senator Lee, a few weeks back, saying, the press and the people, they're just getting more aggressive right now. Here, play this clip.
The feeding frenzy of the liberal Capitol Hill press corps, which are not just liberal reporters, they're liberal political activists.
Yeah, explain how that's
lobbyists.
changed in your mind. You mentioned it during the break, commercial break, that it's a change in the way they're acting. They were always liberal, but what's happening now?
They're more aggressive now. They're not just asking questions of senators. They're following people down the hall. They're shouting out things. They're speaking with a sense of urgency that reveals a complete lack of journalistic objectivity. Make no mistake, Laura, these people are activists.
All right, Senator, great to see you as always.
And here's MAGA Republican senator from Utah, Senator Curtis, saying, we're not being fair. We have to go after Social Security if we want to do these budget cuts. Here, play this clip.
For instance, even if Elon Musk is wildly successful, there aren't enough dollars there.
Oh, no.
To do what he's doing. So why aren't we having a broader conversation?
About Medicare, about Social Security, right?
Yeah. So in my
That's
op-ed,
where the money is.
Yeah, in my op-ed, I actually bring this up. And I think this is a huge misunderstanding that we have, that somehow if we talk about these things, we're going to take benefits away from those who really need them. Can we not have a conversation about the 23-year-old who decided not to work during COVID and is receiving benefits? I have 6 children, most of them in their 30s. They want me to have a conversation about Social Security, and we're not being fair. And yes, and we're not being fair, and we're not being honest when we say we're not going to touch this. And then I'll add another very, very important thing is, we say it's cruel or whatever we say to do this, but I actually think not doing it exasperates the cruelness. These decisions can be made by choice now, or they will be thrust upon us down the line and be much crueler than they are now.
By the way, it was recently reported as well that firefighters were getting screwed over by the Republican Party. Shocker in Utah. Firefighters look on from the gallery as the Utah Senate votes to advance a bill that will take away their rights to collectively bargain. Exactly what's in line with what the Trump regime is doing and what they want to do. Former Utah Senator Mitt Romney was never a big fan of Donald Trump, although, I think there was definitely some appeasement going on at pivotal points when it shouldn't have. But remember when Mitt Romney said the following about Donald Trump, when Mitt Romney was in the Senate and he said the following about Donald Trump killing the bipartisan immigration bill? Play this clip.
I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling. But the reality is that we have a crisis at the border. The American people are suffering as a result of what's happening at the border, and someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, "Hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later."
I just want to make sure y'all remember that, right? Former President Biden wanted to pass a bipartisan border bill that would have strengthened the border, also would have addressed immigration issues with decency, not kidnap people, disappear them to El Salvador concentration camps, and then give the middle finger to the Supreme Court like the Trump regime is doing. And Trump told the MAGA Republicans to kill a bipartisan immigration bill so there could be chaos, so Trump can then claim there's an invasion and then enact war powers. That's what actually went down. And then remember, Donald Trump posted this when Mitt Romney announced that he would no longer be staying in the Senate. Donald Trump had previously posted, "Fantastic news for America, the great state of Utah, and for the Republican Party. Mitt Romney, sometimes referred to as Pierre Delecto, will not be seeking a second term in the U.S. Senate, where he did not serve with distinction." Just a big, that's Donald Trump's language right there. And finally, let me share this with you from a town hall that was held by a MAGA Republican Congresswoman, Malloy, in Utah. Here is her hour-long town hall, or short portion of it, in the University of Utah. You can see how people reacted to her. Play this clip.
Not to yell, and I'm going to answer it. I am going to answer the question. This is a hot crowd. Yes, I do have a concern that if we don't get the executive branch under control, we drift towards authoritarianism. This is an answer when I was running before, when Biden was the president, I had the same concern. I'm on the I answered the question.
Let me leave you with this one more video showing you the 20,000 people in Utah. Let's play the clip. Powerful, powerful stuff. Let me know what you think. Utah standing strong. Salt Lake City standing strong. I love that Bernie Sanders and AOC are going around and they are speaking truth to power right now. Incredible stuff. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
New Midas merch drop. Check out.
Well, as you can see, while opposition grows against Trump, it also tanks his approval numbers, okay? Which is what, in the last video, they touched on a little bit, that, he lost 6 points here, and he's down to like 44%. And I'll say, like she did, these 44%, how are they still clinging on to this, to this man, okay? What the hell are they seeing in this guy that they still approve of him? I don't know, but you can bet the numbers will continue to slide. So, like I said, Americans are very selfish-oriented, okay? If you promise them goods, they expect those goods immediately, if not sooner, okay? Trump made a lot of promises when he campaigned for president, and all these people were expecting good things to happen the minute he became president. Well, instead, as quickly as he promised they were going to get good things, bad things came. And they didn't like that. They got exactly the opposite of what they voted for, which, like I said, Democrats had warned them all last year, year before that, and before that, and before that, warned them all along that you guys are making a big fucking mistake if you support him, okay? And thus now the MAGA people are finding out. So it's no big surprise that his approval numbers are dropping, and still, okay? I expect they will go down even lower here before the year is over. And part of it is going to be really about the economy. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it's always about the economy, isn't it? That people are always concerned with, all right? When it's doing bad, people get nervous. And they want to see leadership, doing something about it. It's not being, unreasonable, I think, to expect that government does something. And of course, the press out there, they're accusing them of getting more aggressive, and I don't even see that. I think the press these days have been very timid when it comes to getting any answers out of the fucking White House. But because they ask for an answer, that's, you're an activist, you're an activist, that's what you are. How dare you ask the president a question? My God, what's the matter with you? This is President Trump here. You're not allowed to ask a fucking question, right? I mean, that's kind of the way they're acting here. So anybody that dares to ask Trump even, a simple softball question, you're considered an activist journalist, okay? What about these town halls where you got Republicans screaming at the politicians that are holding these things and asking them questions. Do these same idiots call them activists? Okay, because the Republicans want answers as to why they lost their 401ks or why their assets are being depleted. You know, in the stock market. You know, no, what are they doing? They're just turning their backs and walking away is what they're doing. They're not even answering the Republicans that are mad right now. So, you know, if you can't take the softball questions that are coming from the press, you're not going to be able to take any questions coming from your own constituents that are out there right now bitching their heads off because they're losing in this economy. Okay? They're the ones that are out there making more of a fucking wave trying to get answers than the press here is. Okay? The Republicans are the ones out there making the biggest noise right now, not the press. And, you know, and I laugh how, you know, they say, well, we have to do something about wasteful spending. You know, what about the 23-year-old that didn't work during COVID and he's still taking, you know, it's like, Jesus, you listen to them and you think that every person in America right now is just sucking off the tit of the government. Okay, really? Well, let me tell you, a lot of these people are probably out of work because your man put these people out of work, and so they're kind of forced into depending on government, unemployment, or whatever, in order to survive. You guys put them on that, and now you're bitching that they're on it. Well, you know, there's only one solution to that, is open up some fucking work. You know, put people to work, and they won't be taking government money. But you see, they never think of that. They do think of it, but they just don't want to actually entertain that possibility that they have to do something about it, okay? And they don't. Having people out of work and all that gives them an issue to campaign on. They can blame other people for the, you know, like, oh, well, your state governor is the one that's got so many people out. You know, when it all came from the top, from Trump's actions at Doge, okay, who's out there cutting fucking all kinds of programs, their funding and cutting off staff, okay? All these people, thousands laid off, you know, people who depended on those jobs, you know, more than the rich ever would, because they got all kinds of money. They can choose to work or not to work, you know. But most people have to work if they want to live, okay? You can't live in this country without a job. So these people, you know, are sitting here acting like, oh, we got an epidemic of people here just taking money from the government, like, oh, you know, they could get a job. Really? Tell that to Trump. Tell that to Elon Musk. Tell that to Doge. Tell that to all these fucking people here who have, for the last 3 months, been sticking it to the goddamn workers in this country, you know, causing, you know, people to lose their jobs, and then, oh, we get it back, and then, no, we don't have it. You know what I'm saying? He's playing games with people's lives here, and people can't do that. We don't have the luxury to play, you know, hire and fire all in one day, okay? We're not playing a fucking reality game show here, all right? We have real lives, and and our jobs create real consequences, whether we have one or don't. And Trump, well, what does he care? You know, he don't even have to be president. He's got money. I mean, the office of the presidency is just a new toy for him to play with, essentially, you know. And he doesn't need that. He don't need that job. He didn't need any of those fucking jobs. Okay, he had money. He could have spent the rest of his life just doing nothing. Okay, just living on the fucking wealth. Having casinos, that was a luxury. You know, even though the people that worked in them probably depended on those jobs for their, you know, to live. But to him, fuck it. You know, so what, I lose it. Who cares? Same thing with the White House. So he gets it. I mean, he only wanted it back so he can exonerate himself, you know, by wiping his own slate clean of all the crimes he did. So he didn't have to go to jail. That was all they wanted it for. But now that he's in there, he's going to just put his feet up on the table, you know, and just shoot his mouth off at anybody that doesn't like him. And, you know what I'm saying? He's there just to play around with the office, and he doesn't care what it does to the economy as a whole. You know, I just, like I said, this is the guy people wanted. And you know, Utah, which is where this this rally was, it's a red state, as you know. And you got people in Utah who are trying to stop collective bargaining rights from the firefighters. You know, again, unions, attacking the unions, okay? And everybody was trying to convince me that Trump was pro-union. You know? And, and one of the first things they do here after the election is they're going to try and deny firefighters the right to unionize and have, you know, it's the same old from the fucking Reds, okay? That's what they are. I mean, it's the same old shit. These people, they have no love for fucking unions, even if a lot of the people in the Republican Party depend on unions, okay? Look, you got to remember something. The people in MAGA are pretending to be rich, but they are poor. They are poverty level economic status. A lot of them. The only people who can brag, you know, that they're wealthy are the rich people in MAGA, who are, you know, jerking each other off, basically, okay? But they don't give a shit about the people under them, okay? But yet the people under them feel like we're connected to rich people because we're MAGA, we're part of the team. And I'm thinking, you guys aren't part of no fucking team. They don't look at you as an equal. You people don't know what equality is like, and therefore you're not going to get it from that side of the aisle, okay? MAGA has been using you. And when I say MAGA, I mean the upper echelons of MAGA, okay? The evangelicals, the grifters, and, you know, the high monkey mucks in the business world. That's MAGA, okay? The rest of you people, you're the rabble underneath it that they can just kick aside, you know, like little puppies at a fucking pound somewhere, okay? That's what you guys are to them. Now that you guys gave your vote to Trump, he doesn't need you anymore. Did you consider that? He got the only thing that mattered to him was your vote. Now that he's got that, he's in the White House. Fuck you guys now. He doesn't owe you a goddamn thing. He's never gonna have to worry about a fucking election anymore. Okay, so what are you guys still kissing his ass for? You already see how he looks at you now. I mean, he's thrown a lot of you people under the bus. So now you know what he's like. I mean, how many more ways does he have to shit on you before you fucking understand that he doesn't want you? Christ. I don't understand this blind loyalty because, you know, every day I get attacked by idiots online, okay, for things that I say on these videos, okay, about MAGA and how, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. I know exactly what I'm talking about because I don't need to go and research it. I see it happening all around me, okay? I noticed there's not so many fucking people driving around with trucks with Trump flags on them now these days. I don't see all kinds of signs everywhere still on the ground like it was the last time, days after the election. Okay, I didn't see that. People pull those fucking signs out of the ground immediately, you know, right off. And I'm thinking, you know, hey, there's probably a mood shift in this state here against Trump now. All right? And it goes right back to what I was saying about selfishness. Okay? MAGA, you know, the American people, and MAGA's part of that, they're selfish people, and they didn't get back what they wanted immediately. They were expecting good things by now, and they ain't going to get it, and everyone's telling them, you're not going to see it. Okay? People inside their own party, their own MAGA constituents are telling you you're not going to see it. Okay? Some of them even admitting, we've been fooled, we've been fucked. Okay? So, like I said, why do you guys still, you know, hook up to him? Okay? Why can't you just unplug yourself from that fat bastard, okay? And admit that you fucked up and just work with the Democrats to get rid of him? Really? Do you realize how, you know, you could avoid a huge headache coming your way if you could just get behind the Democrats, okay, and try to undo the mess you made? Really? Think about that, because otherwise, You're just pissing in the wind. What you're doing right now, trying to pretend that he's going to be such a great president, okay? You're already seeing it ain't going to happen. And I don't have to wait until 4 years later to gauge whether or not he succeeded or not. I can tell you he's going to fail. He did the last time. If he did such a great job, why did he lose in such a huge way against Joe Biden? Okay? Why don't you research recent history to find out what was going on that caused that for that to happen, okay? It ain't because people made it easier to vote, okay? No. That has nothing to do with it. It's the number of people that did vote, okay? And there was just as many people that voted on the right as there, you know, and the left, well, they had more. They had more on the left to vote, okay? But everybody had easy access to the ballots. No one was excluded from that. Everybody, both Republican and Democrat, could get their ballots through the mail or however the hell they were doing it, okay? It's the same for everybody. So to argue that, oh, Democrats, no. Everybody got the same treatment in that election. But Trump lost. And you should ask yourself why. Because you didn't learn from that. For those of you that voted for Trump, you may not have voted for him in that election, but you voted for him after him. Well, now you need to go and read up as to what happened, why he lost against Biden after just 4 years as president, okay? Figure that out. You know, Republicans constantly beat Democrats over the head about Jimmy Carter because he only had one term, and he lost against Ronald Reagan. But what they don't want people to read about is how Reagan won that election. Okay, and what was going on at the time. That's where you have to learn from history to find out the nuances of what was happening that created Jimmy Carter to lose that election. Okay, but you have all the years later saying, oh, Jimmy Carter was a terrible president, and and he only had one term in office. Had nothing to do about how he was running the country. Everybody, okay. It was all about the Republicans' need to get into the White House so they can help out the rich. That's what it was. And it didn't matter how they got in there, and that's what they did. You know. But, you see, they couldn't take the fact that, hey, Trump only got one term, and that was it. No. No, the rich couldn't take that. Having one in their own party now, a one-term president, okay. No, they had to get him back in there any way they could, which, lends more motivation for them to even cheat, perhaps, to get, because, hey, Trump wasn't really that popular last year running, The idea that he was neck and neck all along with Kamala Harris doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. When you think about how the numbers shook down after the election, where you had over 8 million people supposedly who didn't vote, okay, and it just happened to be the same number of people who voted for Biden in the previous election. I mean, come on, there's a lot of things there, a lot of question marks about that whole election, but they needed him back in there. The rich did. That's why, with Trump going around saying, I don't need your votes, I got all the votes I need. He knew something, and he ain't gonna tell you. Well, maybe he will. I don't know. His mind's going. So one of these days he's going to open his yap and he's going to say the truth, and everybody's going to run to interference. You can't put that out there. No. You're going to see Trump's big mouth do him in. Maybe that would probably be poetic justice. After all the lying and stuff that he's done, that he would lose his mind and his own big mouth would be the one that does him in when he goes around telling people what he did to win. I'd love to see that happen. Boy, I mean, talk about putting the MAGA on a tailspin. Jesus. Oh, God. I guess that would be something to wish for, but, I don't know if it'll happen. He'd probably just keel over from a heart attack from eating goddamn McDonald's food before that ever happens. Christ. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for all the viruses and shit going around out there. There's going to be a lot more of them because the RFK is running everything. So, treat each other good out there. Be neighborly and, be courteous. everybody's under stress right now, and there's no need to add to it, okay? Don't do that. When people are under stress, and you know they're under stress, you know, step back. Give them air, all right? All right, I'll talk to you later. Take care, buddy.